A drug dealer's suicide causes a whole lot of problems for Crockett on a fantastic episode of Miami Vice. Payback was directed by Aaron Lipstadt and was written by Robert Crace, the best-selling author of detective fiction. This is one of my favorite episodes. It's definitely in the top 10, probably somewhere in the top 5, and I'm really looking forward to discussing it with you. Crockett visits a prison to meet with a low-level dealer named Moroto, who he'd arrested a while back. Moroto, who is played by world champion boxer Roberto Duran, tells Crockett he's looking for payback and then kisses him before whipping out a janky prison-made gun and shooting himself in the head. Needless to say, this deeply unsettles Crockett. Throughout this episode, a mysterious woman keeps trying to track down Crockett. We won't figure out her deal until much later on. Crockett and Tubbs have been trying to bring down a reclusive drug lord named Mario Fuente, who lives on a yacht at sea and who never sets foot on land. After several months of undercover work, they haven't been able to get past Fuente's right-hand man, Rodolfo, who is played by character actor Dan Hedaya, who we last saw on the episode One-Eyed Jack. To help them with the case, Castillo orders Crockett and Tubbs to work with two experts on Fuente: Hodges, a DEA agent working out of New Orleans, who is played by Frederick Herrick, and Cates, a detective with South Beach Vice, who is played by LA Confidential's Graham Beckel. Something about the situation with Hodges and Cates is obviously not sitting well with Castillo. He's even more taciturn than usual, and when Hodges tries to shake his hand, he pulls that maneuver where he pretends not to notice, and Hodges is left dangling. While the instrumental piece Bass in Trouble by the reggae duo Sly and Robbie plays, Crockett and Tubbs and Cates hit a totally 80s bar. This looks like a place where Jem and the Holograms would go to get liquored up, and I mean that as a very sincere compliment. Crockett picks up a sexy lady at the bar and takes her back to his boat, only to discover it's been ransacked. While a raucous cover of The Doors' Soul Kitchen by the punk band X blasts from his stereo, Crockett discovers that someone has scribbled "Where's the money, Crockett?" over his navigational charts. This is highly troubling for a couple of key reasons. A, Crockett has no idea what money they're talking about, and B, Crockett lives full-time on his boat in his undercover identity as Sonny Burnett, slimeball drug runner, and no one is supposed to know he's actually Sonny Crockett, upstanding vice detective. So his cover has obviously been blown, and he has no idea how or why. Cates, who is also working undercover, has managed to work his way into Fuente's inner circle. He persuades Rodolfo to meet with Crockett and Tubbs as Burnett and Cooper at a restaurant. When Crockett and Tubbs arrive, Rodolfo shoos away two female companions who'd been sitting at his table. If you'll look closely, you'll notice that one of the women is the one who's been trying to find Crockett throughout the episode. Thanks to Cates's influence, Rodolfo agrees to arrange a meeting between Crockett and Tubbs and Fuente. I dearly love how Crockett just starts chowing down on the food of whichever woman used to be sitting there. Crockett and Tubbs arrive at Fuente's yacht in Crockett's speedboat. The mystery woman who's been trying to track down Crockett is on board, and we finally get to meet Fuente, who is played by the late, great Frank Zappa. This is a pretty brilliant guest appearance. Fuente, who seems droll and laid back, yet somehow terrifying, is one of my favorite Miami Vice guest villains. Fuente gets to the point. Moroto, the drug dealer who killed himself in the opening sequence, stole $3 million from him before being busted by Crockett. The money has never turned up. Fuente, who has figured out that Sonny Crockett and Sonny Burnett are one and the same, suspects Moroto summoned Crockett to the prison to tell him where he hid the money before killing himself. And of course, Moroto knew this would happen, and that's what he meant by payback. He shot himself in front of Crockett just to sick Fuente on him in revenge for his arrest. That is a hardcore way to get even with someone. Crockett and Tubbs make it out of this very bad situation by taking Fuente hostage and speeding away before forcing him to jump overboard and swim back to his yacht. Back at Vice headquarters, they learned from Castillo that Hodges is actually an internal affairs detective who has been secretly investigating Crockett, who is suspected by the Miami PD of stealing the $3 million. At one point, Hodges, who is a nasty piece of work, suggests Castillo was in on the theft as well. Castillo grows eerily silent at this and sends everyone out of his office so he can talk to Hodges alone. We'll never see Hodges again, so I feel it's safe to assume that Castillo ate him alive for impugning his integrity. Cates comes up with a terrible and reckless idea. If Crockett pretends he really did steal the money, he can offer to use it to buy a bunch of coke from Fuente at a greatly inflated price, so Fuente will get at least some of his money back. This way, Vice can bust Fuente, which won't necessarily help Crockett with internal affairs, but will at least get Fuente off his back. Crockett and Tubbs go out drinking. I'm assuming this is the same bar as in the earlier scene because I refuse to believe that two such glorious neon paradises ever existed, even in 1986. While Chris Isaac's dancing plays, Crockett explains that even though it's a reckless plan, he needs to get out from under this mess. It's clear that being thought of as dirty is killing him. While Three Sisters by NXS plays from their 1985 Listen Like Thieves album, Crockett pretends to be corrupt and works out an arrangement with Radolfo. Radolfo and Cates will take Crockett to the yacht to work out the details of giving back the money to Fuente. While they're heading over to the yacht on Radolfo's speedboat, Crockett finds the $3 million in a duffel bag belonging to Cates. He took advantage of Moroto's final screw you to Crockett to frame Crockett for the theft. Cates shoots and kills Radolfo, and then, while the $3 million blows out over the ocean, Cates and Crockett battle. They struggle with a gun, and Cates is shot. A dying Cates apologizes for trying to ruin Crockett's life. He points out that, with the money gone, Fuente will still be coming after Crockett. The episode ends with Crockett sitting with Cates' corpse in the speedboat in the middle of the ocean, grim and exhausted. Here we've got a bad guy who did a pretty great job of screwing Crockett over, and the result is an episode with very high personal stakes. It's got a cool, twisty plot with a great appearance from Frank Zappa, and it's one of those episodes that firmly places Crockett on the path to ruin. Nothing specifically from this episode will ever come up again. Fuente won't appear again on the series, and Crockett's problems with internal affairs are presumably resolved with Cates' death. But we're seeing more and more signs that the job is starting to destroy Crockett, and that will become the dominant theme. This is another Five Flamingo episode. As we approach the end of Season 2, this is probably our last Five Flamingo episode for quite a while, though I could be wrong about that. We will have to wait and see. Next time, Bianca Jagger will try to murder a Central American poet, and I'm telling you right now, the flamingo count on that one's going to be pretty low. Join me then, and subscribe to my channel or find me on Twitter to talk about Miami Vice, and I will see you later. Goodbye.